Alright, hello everyone. Today we're going to be covering advanced Pandoc usage, or some advanced features of Pandoc that are really useful to know. Now, in this video, I'm really only going to talk about Pandocs going from Markdown to PDF. So, anything of converting Markdown to HTML or EPUB. There's a few semantics with other formats. I'm not going to be covering any of the advanced usage, but some of the stuff that I will talk about will have usage in those areas. Just generally, you probably won't find much use. But anyway, first I'm going to talk about, I think, one of the most important parts of advanced Pandoc usage, and that is specifying metadata, in-document metadata, or custom metadata, or whatever the heck you want to call it. So, metadata is contained in two triple dashes, kind of as a block of sorts. Now, all of the metadata is formatted in YAML, so anything that is valid YAML format will go in this metadata block. And actually, as a bit of a example, Pandoc has a bunch of formats. So under the hood, when Pandoc compiles a document from Markdown to PDF, it goes from Markdown to LaTeX or Tech to PDF. Now, the default template for LaTeX is this monstrosity. Pretty much it takes those metadata variables. For instance, you could see font settings here, main font, sans font, mono font. It says if there's, anything like that, you can put it in there, include it. So templates are pretty much just kind of the boilerplate code, boilerplate text, whatever you want to call it, for a particular format. So when you're creating custom templates, you can also specify custom metadata. Now, I'm not going to cover templates in today's video because they are their own beast and there's a lot to unpack with that. So expect another video soon on Pandoc templates. But right now, we're going to go back into that document and I'm going to show you some of the already built-in meta stuff. So our first meta tag is title. Now, this is pretty self-explanatory. It's a title. So I have some text on Stanislav Petrov. So I'm just going to call this Stanislav Petrov report. Now, you can probably see Vim freaking out with syntax highlighting because there's dashes under. If you don't want that, you can just add an extra line and it's fine. So if I open up a tab in the window of Zathura and open that document, as you can see here's a bit of a sample document that uses some of those advanced concepts. So I just need to look through my history. Now, as you can see, this is a basic document and we have that title up there. Now, you probably saw a lot of other things there as well in that previous document, and those are all of the meta tags I'm going to be covering that do some of the basic stuff, like subtitles, abstract subject. So anyway, let's get into it. So if I open up that document again, we can specify an author. Now, I'm just going to call this the man, since the man made it, or wrote it, or whatever. I just copied it off WikiList, so doesn't matter. But you can specify an author tag. You can also specify a not Dart, a date tag. So I can say 4/20/2021. So if we compile that, as you can see, now we have an author and a date. So there's also some other tags. One of them is the subject. Now, I think subject is actual metadata embedded in the file and not something in the document. So I'm just going to say report. Historical report. I can't type today. So I don't think it would appear. Yeah, no. So it's just metadata appended to that PDF. You can also specify an abstract. Now, if you aren't familiar, I cannot type today. cannot spell today. So if you are not familiar with scientific papers or research papers, often an author will have a abstract that summarizes the entire content of a research paper, because sometimes they can get very long and people are lazy. So sometimes people want to know whatever said document is about, and we can specify an abstract. Now, anything that is valid YAML markup will work, so I'm just probably going to maybe copy a few lines from here and just paste them up here. Now, I'm going to put this in quotes and just indent it so that the YAML parsing won't freak out. So we can set that, and now if we compile it, as you can see, we now have a nifty little abstract with the abstract title and all of that text in it. So there's one more basic option that you can specify as a metadata tag, and that is the table of contents, or TOC. Now, if you set this to true, what it does is it will specify a table of contents. Now, you can see headings and subheadings, Stanislav Petrov, and early life and military career. You can see right here, and incident, late career. There's that heading, and there is that subheading, and they also have all of the respective page numbers on that table of contents. So that's useful if you have some long thing you're writing and you just need quick references to certain headings. Very, very useful. Now, like I said earlier, under the hood, Pandoc converts Markdown to LaTeX and then compiles it using PDF LaTeX to a PDF. So you can specify various LaTeX variables. Now, one of them is the document class. Cannot type today, so I'm having the autocomplete do it for me. So this specifies a document class for LaTeX. I haven't delved into LaTeX very deeply myself, so when you call a /document class in LaTeX, this is the equivalent of doing that in LaTeX in Pandoc's Markdown. So I'm just gonna delete that so the interpreter doesn't yell at me. So another tag is the geometry tag. Geometry tag. I cannot spell today. So the geometry tag allows you to specify certain formatting options. Mainly the only one, at least I care about, is the margins. So we can specify a margin of 1 inch, whatever the heck that was. So if we compile it, as you can see on the right, the margins suddenly are a lot smaller and a lot more text can fit on those pages. And as you can see, the page numbers in that table of contents update accordingly. So that is another very useful tag that I like to keep in all of my templates for writing documents. Whenever I write something new, I just paste a template in, and that's a meta tag I really like to have. There's another option you can set called indent. So indent uses the LaTeX formatting to specify indents. So you can set it to true and it will automatically do indents. So, oh no, yeah, it did work. So as you can see, we have little paragraph indents for each paragraph. I haven't played around with this too much, so I don't know how to fully manipulate it, and it's a LaTeX feature, so I'm still learning that now, so things may change. You can also, actually with the geometry tag too, before I forget this, you can also specify individual margins by doing margin left or left, right, top, bottom, all of that. So you can specify individual margins that way. Now, one other option for formatting is the paper size. So you can set it to a bunch of common paper sizes. I'm just going to use letter, for example. So if we compile that, I think it's actually letter by default. Yeah, it is letter by default. But we can specify another format, A4. So if we compile that document, if you're watching it carefully, you could see that that page width just got a bit smaller to fit that A4 document size. So that is another super useful meta tag that you should probably have in documents. So next is fonts and fonts. So you can set the font encoding, and this is something internal to Latex. It is by default set to T1. I generally don't have issues with this. I usually just don't even have it in here unless you need to encode special characters, like Unicode or something. You can change this. But generally, if you're writing English, if you're writing in normal LaTeX, you don't even need to have this set. So that's just for font encoding. So another option is the font family. Now, this does not use a TrueType font or OTF font. It uses the LaTeX internal typesetting fonts. So the default one is set to Courier, and I think it's the equivalent of Courier New for more traditional fonts. But you can also set this to any font that is available to LaTeX. So for instance, I have one here, a MathPTMX. So if we compile that document, on the right you'll see the font changes. So it's now that MathPTMX font. And then you can also specify a font size. Now, this is dependent on what your document class is, and whatever's in the default, you can only set it to 10 points, 11 point, or 12 point. You can change the document class if you want to have different font sizes. Generally, I don't think you would even need to use this, but by default, it's set to 10 point. So if we change it to 12 point, for instance, you'll see that that font grows a bit. Actually, I think, font size. So as you can see, that font grows just a bit larger. So nice if you need a 12 point font. I think 12 point is the standard, but it's default set to 10 point. So be aware of that. And there's one last meta option that is super, super useful if you want to write any document or you need a LaTeX package that isn't included in the default template, or you need to just include some package. So you could, if you try to say, type a embed and do use package and say, Chemtech, I think it is, and do the syntax for LaTeX, it'll throw you out an error because it's not in the header. So you would use the option of header includes, and I think it is a Chemtech. I could be wrong about this package. I was doing some experimentation with a few other things with this command, but I think it shouldn't. Chemtech. You can specify any package that you need to use in LaTeX with this. I can't exactly remember but generally, if you're using a custom LaTeX package, this is where you want to include it. So now that we've gone over some of the basic examples of metadata, right? You can also directly embed LaTeX into Markdown, into Pandoc's Markdown. Now, in the previous video, I showed you how to use raw attributes. So, you type in the backtick for code, you type in whatever you want, begin center, and we could specify that is LaTeX code, and then we could yank that, paste that here, and set that to end. And if we compile that document, you can see that that would be in the center now. So you can do it that way. It's a bit tedious if you're using it a lot, or if you're using stuff like math or whatnot. So you can also, when you're compiling, I cannot type today. You can also, in your compile options, specify plus raw underscore tech. So this is the extension that allows you to embed LaTeX code directly into said document that you're compiling. So if I undo those changes real quick and delete the backticks, and if we save it and we specify that extension, you see it compiled fine and it worked. So if you're doing stuff like defining custom tables or math, which I'll cover in just a moment, that is super useful if you're doing it a lot of the time. Now, something that I specifically needed out of Pandoc was math equations. Whether it's writing lab reports or notes, often having the ability to write math is very important and very crucial to me. So I have some sample text up here for a derivative, but I'm going to show you how to embed math equations, math symbols, and whatever you want directly into Pandoc's Markdown. So if you want to define an equation, you just simply wrap it in dollar signs. I think this is the exact same way they do it in Pandoc as well. I mean, not Pandoc, in LaTeX as well. I'm not totally sure, so don't quote me on that. But if you encapsulate any given expression that's valid math in LaTeX, it will convert into actual math statements. So if we set this to math and we compile that, as you can see, if we take a look, you can see that that compiled directly into math equations, all formatted right with the proper font. So that is very useful to know. And anything that is valid math expressions for math in LaTeX will work here. So if I specify a fraction, say 1 over 2 minus 3, and we end that with a dollar sign, and we compile it, as you can see, we now have that fraction 1 over 2 minus 3. So that is how you embed math into a document. Now, we can go further with this and actually specify individual equations. So what we can do is instead begin, I can't type, equation. So we can do begin and end equation. And what this will do is it will use all of the typesetting from LaTeX to center the equation, to have it in a nicer format and size, and specify like a little index. So if we want to, say, reference it later with a ref tag, we can do that. If you also don't want to have to wrap something in quotes, you can also do / begin math and end that block. So if we compile that, as you can see, it works out the same, and it is all formatted like that. Now, what you can also, and this is all with raw attributes with LaTeX. So if you're just inserting like maybe one of these, what you could do is you could do the triple quote and, you know, yank it and paste it in here and do all of that syntax equals LaTeX. And if we compile that, as you'll see, there'll probably be another equation, yeah. And so if you're only inserting one, you can do that, and that should generally work. So another use of the raw LaTeX, since I'm using it now, is if you're doing formatting. Now, with LaTeX, you have center, staggered right, and staggered left. For me, the only formatting option I would really need is centered. So if I say this is an equation, right? If we have this, we can do a / begin center and / end oh gosh, I cannot type today, center. So we can do that and compile it, as you can see. Oh, I cannot type today. So if we specify that, you can see that that text is centered in the middle of that document, and we don't have to specify any annoying code blocks or anything like that. So what we can also do is, a better example is, I also have another document here, right? So we have a bunch of I don't know, copy pasta I found off Reddit and some ASCII art, and I don't know, maybe I just want to center that ASCII art just because it looks nice. Begin, and we can do center, and we can end that center tag. And maybe we could also say, I don't know, maybe do this begin. I cannot type today, center. And we can end that block, and I don't know, maybe like throw it in backticks for extra effect. So we can do that, and we can specify, was it raw underscore latex? Yeah. Oh, I think there's a lone $sign somewhere. Huh. Well, you can specify that. I'm not sure what's exactly causing that problem. Inserted text. Maybe there's just some lone $sign. I don't know. Anyway, so you can specify formatting like that. Super useful, super helpful. No idea why it's yelling at me. If I probably looked far. Oh, it's probably actually the ASCII art that's freaking out. I'll deal with that. I think you can escape them as normal. But you can also, to go back to that one document, you can also, if you don't like how the tables are handled by default with Pandoc with all of the dashes and stuff, it produces only a horizontal table with horizontal and no like celled. You can also specify a tabular object. So first arg is tabular, and then you can specify a cell, a border, a cell, and a border. And we can say add in a horizontal line, and then do cell 1, and for our separator, cell 2, and for our separator, and cell 3, and for our separator, actually no separator here. And we do double slash to indicate the end of that cell, H line, and we can just yank this here and paste it here. Replace this with 4, replace that with 5, and replace that with 6, and do slash H line, and then slash end tabular. So this will generate a table with how LaTeX handles it. So if we replace this with our input file, as you can see, we now have a celled table where there are bars on both the horizontal and the vertical. And if you want to do extra, maybe add, I don't know, maybe say have a object up here and say this is item and item and item for, like, you know, how you set your header, H line, and then maybe do a double H line. And then for the side of the table, you can specify 2 pipes and maybe another horizontal line there. And as you can see, we now have double line borders on the outside of the table. So that is another thing that you can do with raw LaTeX. So this is definitely very powerful. Why you would want to use this is, at least for me, I'm more focused on actually writing something, and say I want to insert some math. I can just insert a random snippet from LaTeX for an equation or math, and I can just write it, but not have to worry about all the extra boilerplate that LaTeX requires in order to write a document. Sometimes there is use for that if you really want fine control, but generally you can generate your own templates with Pandoc and write in Markdown. I personally find it easier just because Markdown is designed for writing. It's designed to be readable, and having the LaTeX, having raw LaTeX for things like formatting, it's just a line of begin center, super useful, and I use it sparingly, so I don't use it all that much, but it definitely has its use. And actually, on the topic, if we head back to that doc, I can actually show you the example. So if we do that header includes tag that I was talking about earlier, I cannot type today, chemfig, that was the package that I remembered. So with chemfig, it's simple chemistry, allows you to specify chemistry equations in LaTeX, and it's a super interesting and useful package that you can use for, say, I don't know, a biology report or something like that. So to specify it, of course, we can use, again, raw LaTeX, and we can do chemfig, and we can specify, you know, the set of how molecules are set up. I'm not really sure how all of this works under the hood, but I thought it would be something interesting to show you all about the usage of raw LaTeX within Pandoc. So if we do that and we change that to doc, now we compile that. I think oh, forgot to put in quotes. Yeah, if we compile that. Oh, no, sorry. I'm getting confused in myself. What this actually does is you just specify a direct raw text to use in the header. So that is a bit of a correction. So you can put use package, and then this is a chemifig. So that's why it wasn't playing nice with me. So like I said, valid YAML syntax. So it's just raw text to include in the header. Had that in my notes, completely forgot about it. So am I getting the syntax right? Oh, I think I am. Maybe I'm not, but anyway, to the point. Header includes, you just specify the raw text you want to include in the header, and you can also use the standard YAML syntax if you want to include more, but that is something that you can do with that. So anyway, I think that is the end of my generalist overview on using some advanced usage of Pandoc. In another video, I will cover templates because there are some really powerful potential in what you can do with custom templates. It's just a lot, and it is a lot to take in. So anyway, I hope you enjoyed this video, and I will see you in the next video.